Welcome to this BIP Session, the Biomethane Industrial Partnership Session on technology perspective regarding biogas renewable energy, enhancing digestate valorisation towards the circular economy. My name is Maria Georgiadou. I work for the European Commission, the DG Research and Innovation, and I am a co-chair in the Task Force 5 of Biomethane Partnership, Industrial Partnership. Task 5 deals with research and innovation needs in general, and it has three sub-tasks, one of which is about the valorization of the digestate and looks at the research and innovation technological needs in order to improve valorization of the digestate. And today we have the honor to present you Professor Eric Mears from the University of Yale, who is the chair of the second subgroup of Task Force 5 of the BIP, and he will give you the latest findings on the research and innovation needs for improving the digestate from the biogas plants. Please welcome Professor Mears on the floor.
Today we have different aspects. So first we will be talking about the presentation of the research needs report for the 5.2 task force. And then we will have some time for Q&A for those having questions, of course, on what the report is. Then, like Laura also introduced the plenary session before the coffee break, we are also diving into the follow-up kind of deliverable, not on the research needs but on the implementation. What can we do to catalyze the adoption of digestate valorization, and with that, of course, nutrient recycling is very high on the agenda, and there is a lot of discussion and Q&A possibility. Now this is, let's say, something that's coming to a closure. It's a publication in the launch. This is something that is still to be developed, and their input is welcome. Now, I must also say, input is also welcome here, but of course then it is for follow-up activities that we might think of. So for today's speech, we also already had the pleasure of meeting Maria. This is myself. We also had, before the coffee break, also Laura who will be speaking, and Lise Spacer will also give some insights on the development of the valorization deliverable coming from the BIP, so the deliverable that is upcoming. On the partnership of the BIP, so it was briefly touched upon that with the, of course, tragic invasion of Russia in Ukraine, the vulnerability of the energy dependency of Europe became quite apparent. So we are depending for our natural gas imports quite severely from Russia and Belarus, but also for our fertilizer production. We are highly dependent, or we were highly dependent, but trying to wean off our dependence there. But part of that weaning off is fixed in the REPower EU plan, and part of that REPower plan on energy independence is to move to biomethane production. So that's basically homegrown natural gas substitutes that we can produce in Europe. 35 BCM is billion cubic meters of biogas, or biomethane, to be produced. And you can roughly compare that with 1 out of 3 pipelines that Russia was importing natural gas through to Europe before the invasion. So that is replacing quite a lot of that import dependency, but then by biomethane. And then, of course, for the rest of the REPower EU plan, we are also looking at other energy solutions as well. Now, the BIP itself, Biomethane Industrial Partnership, was established as part of that plan to interlink the industrial interests and the policy interests. So it's, let's say, a joint undertaking of the biogas sector in Europe, related sectors that can benefit from biogas and biomethane use, so those who are high energy intensive or those who have a lot of possible streams that can be put into biogas and biomethane, and then of course the member states and the Commission side from the policy. So scaling of biomethane production is vital because we need to reduce that European dependence, so that's what I was mentioning. So we want to have a higher energy independence. That also means having an impact on the volatility of the energy pricing, and we want also more renewable energy to abate the climate crisis, climate change crisis itself. So this was briefly touched upon, and I'm also not going into detail by Laura. You have the 6 task forces now that we have under the BIP umbrella. One is the task force 1 is focusing more on the interactions between member states level, the policy level, and European level. Then 2, 3, 4 are more about sustainable economic development, either at the gas grid level or at the production level. So let's say economic and framework conditions of such developments. Then 5 is the one on research, and then 6 is the newest one, the newest kid on the block, because that's where we can link Ukraine to the European Union, but that's a recent task force that was set up last year. Today we are in, or at least in the first part, we are in the frame of Task Force 5, which is a joint undertaking between the research, industrial research, and European Commission. That's also why we have 3 co-chairs. So I'm not saying representing the academic side as a co-chair of Task Force 5. Maria is doing that from the European Commission side, so the policy RTD requirements. And then we also have from Nippon Gas, we also have an industrial co-chair, Angelica. Now, within the setting up and the defining of research needs and the broader scope of biomethane, so biomethane is not only about digestates, not only about nutrients, of course, today's topic is, but the broader focus is that you also have technologies, including thermochemical, biochemical, electrochemical, biological technologies that can all contribute to biomethane production, and that was Task Force 1, which has already delivered this report, so not scope for today, but for completeness sake mentioning it. Then there's also one that is under development on improving methanation technology, so that is a deliverable that is still in development. But then today we are focusing more on the second one, that is dealing with the combination of biogas with digestate, or at least going beyond biogas and looking at the benefits that digestate and valorisation of digestate can bring. But then, of course, being Task Force 5 on research, we are looking more at where are the research gaps for the future, where can we push the envelope forward on further developments. Now, on pushing that forward, there are a number of figures that I tend to use. When we are thinking about the conventional agri-food value chain in Europe, we have the conventional animal production and plant production. We have the food industry, to which both are delivering their stuffs, of course. We also have this interaction coming from byproducts to fertilization and feed production, also moving back to animal husbandry. So you have these interlinkages between agro and food industry. But then you have the one that is making the 4th point in that entire value chain, and that's the residue processing sector. And of course, I've represented here with the biogas installation. There are other technologies that you can think of for byproduct processing, including animal manure processing units which do not have biogas. You also have other types of byproduct valorization. But of course, for the intended purposes, today we are looking at biogas as a key enabling technology for processing all these residues and making added value renewable energy out of it. And of course, as scope of today, also has benefits towards digestate. This is a figure that we also use in the report in an adjusted form. We adjusted it a little bit. This is a figure that the US EPA is using to frame the importance of anaerobic digestion as a novel type of refining. So when, let's say, 10, 15 years ago, biogas was about this, putting a lot of stuff in a big reactor and getting biogas out, and in quite a lot of cases just putting it in a cogeneration unit for electricity and heat, which of course was already a good sustainable transition. But over the last, let's say, decade, we see that biogas is moving more into the direction of a full-blown biorefinery, where you can also have other biodegradable products being converted to biogas. But then you also can have an upgrading into pure biomethane, which can be added into the gas grid for international transport and use, or can be used for as a vehicle fuel on one end, so that's let's say the energy component, and on the other end we also have where we used to think about digestate more in the frame of okay, that's a byproduct of energy production. Digestate is earning more and more its own rightful place, considering that we need to also have a storyline or a narrative towards what we want to do with the minerals components that are coming from our waste products, but also organic carbon that is coming from our waste products. So we see that digestate has earned its own rightful place, both from the sustainability development as well as from the economic development of the refinery. We see that digestate has also moved away from only a fertilizing product. We also have more technologies that are upcycling and refining digestate and extracting minerals in more pure form, but also extracting things like fibrous materials in more pure form, so that you can also get other products out. You can, of course, use fibrous materials in animal bedding. There are a number of projects and even actual implementations looking at potential of solid fraction of digestate in that capacity. But you also have upcoming, still niche, but upcoming lines of research moving towards digestate use in biomaterials like insulation materials, fiber panels, and other types of biocomposite materials derived from solid fraction of digestate. Of course, you have minerals, you have materials either in bedding or in material use, but you also have the water, and then you also have the purification of water that can move towards irrigation or fertigation if there are still significant amounts of nutrients present in your irrigation water, which also have potential use. Now, like I said, this is a graph, a nice overview that US EPA is using. Other additional values that I do not find in the original ESNI, actually the IN was added. They were focusing more on organic fertilizers. So we are also focusing more on the mineral fertilizers that we can extract and derive from it. But also, if you look at the overall biorefinery, you have, if you get biogas up to biomethane upgrading, you also have purified CO2, which is also not just a byproduct, but you can also have a lot of industrial uses, so it's also a commodity with its own right. And here as well, if you look at the FPR, the fertilizing product regulation, you also have soil improvers, you also have biostimulants, and you have other ranges of products that can be derived from digestate. So this type of graph is a nice way of setting, let's say, the mindset of how you can position biogas. The report itself, and I always have a double feeling when publishing and presenting such reports, because it always feels incomplete, and that's because we as scientists, we always end with future perspectives for the next research. We're always kicking the can down the road, because we also want to see, we also see things that we think need to be added. I think this is a time-stamped report where we see, okay, we have an overview of research needs as we identified them at this stage, but I think research being in nature something that evolves, I think we will also need to continuously work on updating that in our recommendations to the Commission or on other stakeholders on what is needed in research. And I think that is also vital why you are here, why we need to not only publish this and say, okay, this is done, but also interact on the outcomes of it and also see what are the next steps in research needs. Now, the report itself is broken down in 3 parts. It's roughly around 50 pages in text. Has a lot of references, all with links, by the way. We have, I think it's roughly 200 references or to reviews, technical papers, also project deliverables and project fact sheets. And all of the references in the report have workable links, and we thank the BIP secretary for checking those links. So that's the last thing was updating all non-functional reference links. But now everything is working perfectly, or should. Always feel free to mention if a link gets outdated. So what we have is 3 parts. Review of the current state of art. So we try to describe where we are at the moment on digestate use and nutrient recovery related to digestate use in Europe. So that's, say, framing the current state of art. Then we ventured a little bit deeper in novel technologies and technology gaps. And from that, we went to kind of extracted, refined, and distilled recommendations for further research. But of course, this is a report drafted by experts, a group of experts. Each has its own view, and there are always views that can be added to that. So that's why I want to reiterate, it is important for audiences like this and audiences to come when we present this report. Do feel free to give your feedback on the report also afterwards, because it can help shape future developments. Also need to mention, there is, for those who have not mentioned, there is the QR code. You can download the report, so it is published as of now, basically, so it's publicly available. Of course, the slides will also be shared, so you can also get it from there afterwards. No, this is a short session. We have 1.5 hours. So I'm going to focus more on the part 3 of it. So again, QR codes. If it's not big enough in the previous one, you can use this one or wait for afterwards. So like I said, it's broken down in 3 parts. The review, analysis of the novel technologies, and identification of the gaps. And today I will be focusing a little bit more on recommendations for further research, and then you can also have opinions or questions and feedback on that, particularly at this stage. For the parts 2 and 3, and maybe you can see here, it goes from 1 to 7 for parts 2 and 3. We will be consistent, and we've made 7 categories of, let's say, research domains that we have covered in brief. I'm going to left to right. So the first one is agronomic use of digestate. You can have, let's say, the low-tech approach. You can use your digestate as is, or you can have low-tech things like mechanical separation and use solid fraction or liquid fraction separate. But agronomic use itself also has challenges and potential for further research, and some research needs still are there for, let's say, the direct use of digestate in itself. Another category is when you go a little bit further in biorefining the mineral extraction, that you say, okay, we want to extract nitrogen in pure form, or phosphorus, or even potassium, or other elements, and thinking in a biorefinery type of mineral extraction. Here it's a little bit less readable because it's a yellow background, but this is extraction of other compounds, and here we're thinking about organic compounds, bioactive compounds, for example. And this is, as you will see in one of the next slides, a little bit linked. It's not heavily delineated, as you will see in one of the next slides, with microbial valorisation, because in some cases you have microbial fermentations of digestate or alternative fermentations, which have then organic metabolites that can be used from a biorefinery perspective, and of course metabolites or other compounds, so they are then linked a little bit here. So that you will understand better when I show you the slide what I mean. We also have identified as a research domain everything that is related to economic optimization, social acceptance. We've also included the policy framework in that, more value chain type of assessment research domain. Economic optimization, of course, if it's just about business plan optimization, that's something that goes more in the other task forces. But research on economic business plan innovation, and I think Rudy is somewhere here in the room. I think he was also asked the question in the plenary about, yeah, but can we also include CO2 as an additional economic benefit and reinvent some of our business plans that might also have some research needs on top of implementation needs. Now, trans-sectoral use is when you are using digestate for building materials, so the fibrous material extraction or use and getting it into biocomposites. I gave the example of insulation material. A lot of these researches are on the lower TRL, some are in 4 or 5 demo scale, but not much higher, so that's also a development, field of development. And then last but not least, everything related to environmental impact. Some of it can be bad, some of it good, but I will go over these points in a little bit more detail and then you will understand the bad and the good. Now, these are text heavy. I will try to lead you through it, so the next few slides are a little bit text heavy because I've used excerpts from the recommendations itself. And for agronomic use of digestate, we were looking at, okay, effective organic carbon, which is remaining in digestate use. That is something that needs to be further worked upon to be able to also model over longer time periods, starting from the effective organic carbon that you can identify from lab monitoring assessments, but then see what this can bring to soil organic carbon buildup in the soil in a modeled approach and predicted approach, because this feeds into things like carbon farming, carbon sequestration, and so on. And of course also all the interactions that this carbon gives in the soil is also very relevant future research. So this is already something that is building on established, but needs to build further for that. From the middle slide, you have the fertilizer replacement value, or the nutrient use efficiency, or the effective nutrients, all different terms relating to how you can use digestate or liquid fraction of digestate. And remember, this is just agronomic use of digestate and derivatives directly, so not yet the nutrient recovery technologies. So here as well, there is a reference in a number of policy documents, including the ones related to renewal, for example, but also other documents referring to a higher nutrient use efficiency of digestate compared to conventional organic fertilizers. But that has benefits and that has challenges. The benefits is that with higher use efficiency and higher predictability of plant uptakeable forms of nutrients, you can also decrease losses, but in the end we are still dealing with a heterogeneous variable source of high available and nutrient available sources. So that in itself is also a challenge. And this challenge can be met with the third point mentioned here, is that we have also a range of precision farming technologies that are emerging, whether it's telemetric visualizations using drones and touch imagery, sensors which can either work on soil, crops, or digestate, and also new practices rather than full field spreading, variable rate applications, and so on. So you have new types of farming practices and technologies evolving, and that needs to link back to both the benefits of digestate, namely these established higher fertilizer replacement value than original raw materials, but also the downside that we have more heterogeneous materials. So this combination is also something that is very valuable for future research. This gets even smaller, apologies for that. I tried to fit it on one slide, but I will guide you through it. The reason for that is a lot going on in this field. And I'm quite certain that some might say, well, my super duper innovation is not in your list. Might very well be, because that's how innovations work. It gets on the radar, gets added to the list, but it increases the TRL. So we do have projects, by the way, and some of them are also here today, that are making sense of all the new technologies emerging, creating factories, creating databases, and those are also living databases. So new technologies are being invented, but in general, we have a lot of those technologies focusing on nitrogen and phosphorus. And what we do see is that, well, I do think that in the near future, more attention could be given to the, let's say, forgotten nutrients, the other micronutrients, potassium or sulfur, for example, but and calcium, magnesium, but also trace elements in their potential for recovery is something that has been overlooked as a bad word, but has been eclipsed by research fields in nitrogen and phosphorus. Also, nitrogen and phosphorus, although quite advanced already, there are technologies with still lower TRL, and those are, for example, technologies linked on adsorption, membrane systems, or bioelectrical chemical systems are still in lower TRL and can develop further. You also have technology on phosphorus, for example. Struvite has been quite well established as a research field, but you also have brucite, vivianite, and other types of phosphorus precipitation principles that are upcoming and being investigated, both from technology side as well as product assessment side. And then another one on phosphorus is that, well, when you are dealing with solid fraction of digestate after separation, you have organic carbon rich, but also phosphorus rich solid fraction. And then if you want to use the organic carbon as a soil improver, quite obviously you're limited with the higher loads of phosphorus. So researchers also needed to decouple the phosphorus from the organic carbon, use organic carbon as a soil, enhance it locally, and upcycle phosphorus in a mineral form to be exported or used in places where phosphorus is more in need. Mass balances and crop balances need to be better scrutinized. At the moment, we are using systems of limiting elements, so the macronutrients are determining your load of all other minerals. This also feeds into things like tailor-made fertilizer, that if you understand better your mass and crop balances and requirements, you can also move towards products which are more tailor-made, so that you can more adjust all your requirements for a certain crop, rather than just fertilize based on one limiting element and then have either over or under fertilization for all other elements. So that's also a topic. And the upcycling is that more and more combinations of thermochemical processes with AD, with anaerobic digestions, are being mentioned, both post-processing of digestate itself, but also pre-processing of feedstocks, or using charred from digestate as a feedstock for your reactor and optimizing reactor conditions. Here I put three together, so that's we are jumping immediately from category 3, 4, 5. Like I mentioned, these are a little bit, although at first sight you might not think they are linked. Basically, well, here we are getting extra valuable compounds out of it, like, for example, VFAs, volatile fatty acids, are amongst those categories. These are high-value products that can also feed the business concept. You can not only get gas out of it, but you can also look at fermentation processes that lead to this. Digestate, on top of having additional value, also has biostimulating aspects, like humic substances with other pseudo-plant hormonal effects can also be mentioned under that. Not all of them are understood, by the way, so quite a lot of the evidence is empirical, that you say, okay, we notice based on our statistics that something else is benefiting crop growth or alleviating stress, we just don't know what exactly, so that means a little bit more fundamental science could help elucidate that. And the link that I see between these other valuable products of extraction and microbial valorization is, microbial valorization of digestate wants to focus on other uses of the digestate for cultivating fungal or bacterial compounds. But these as well can then produce things like organic acid, and here's one example given, citric acid that can help in bioleaching, but of course organic acid is another organic valuable compound. So metabolites from microbial valorization of digestate is quite linked to other organic compounds that you can get out of digestate. As well here, when you are dealing with the proposal towards engineered composite construction biomaterials, that of course links with trans-sectoral use of digestate, which is also on this slide. I used the wrong icon now, I see, for this. It is this icon. Let's move on. So trans-sectoral use of digestate is that you also are looking at other non-nutrient applications or non-fertilizer applications, and I already mentioned several times that you can have endpoints which are even non-agricultural and can go into the building sector. This is a horrible slide for which apologies. Too much text. Communication 101 don't do that. But like I said, I was using exact excerpts and I'm trying to then guide you through it. I broke it down in 3 parts. Basically, we looked at the economic parts that are needed, economic and marketing aspects related to business plan innovation and business concept innovation. And then the comment we gave earlier about CO2 and linking it to ETS is definitely one of those things that fit into that type of business plan innovations. This part is about social acceptance, and that is about catalyzing, and that's about adopting also social science type of methodologies, because there is one thing of developing a technology that might be suitable, but it's another thing to get it also into the market and convince people to actually use it. So the social acceptance aspect is quite paramount as well, and often underestimated as a applied research field. This big rectangle is then about everything related to policy. We try to avoid giving policy recommendations, and we brushed through the text several times, but we also wanted to highlight relevant policy domains, which are either can be opportunities or barriers, depending on how you look at it. Another proposal that has been put into the report are the concept of the sandboxes, the regulatory sandboxes, where you have regions or pilot installations which are more flexible in their environmental, not in their environmental pressures, but in the environmental legislation, that you have experimental permits that are temporary, in which you can say, okay, we need to identify things at operational relevant level, but if you want to do that, then you need the permission to do that. And that is something that has been also mentioned, that experimental sandboxes, where you work in a controlled environment, to see what the facts are, is also something that is put forward as a recommendation on top of the other aspects. And this is the last category, so the further, the 3 points on environmental, but there are actually more, and they're also a little bit embedded in the other categories. But one thing is linking to soil health, is that digestate itself has beneficial aspects, both at the biology, physical and chemical levels of how we perceive and monitor soil health. So those are things that need to be better analyzed and followed up. Then we have 2 types of things which are on the downside of environmental assessment. So avoiding quality problems relating to emerging pollutants, or pollutants which have always been there but are of emerging interest. For example, PFOS is something that has been around for some time, but it's now gaining attention. In the Netherlands, we also had the issue with amphetamines in the biogas sector, whether it was false positives and so on. But there are new, in any case, we have in current legislation and in current quality assessment, we have a very well-defined list of inorganic pollutants, heavy metals and so on. Table of Mendeleev is only so big, so you can know exactly what to analyze there. The problem is with organics is that the more you analyze target and non-target types of xenobiotics, is that you find more and more compounds. The more and more you have higher sensitive analytical equipment, the more and more you find something of everything. And apart from the emerging interest from existing pollutants, we also need to put in place systems and monitoring that can identify this, but also how we can then work around it when this is observed. At the moment, when you look in biogas operations, when you find, I need to finish, I think, in this, but it's also the last slide. And then, so the emerging pollutants is one. Also one that is quite often overlooked, and there's more text, of course, in the report, but that's everything related to antimicrobial resistant genes. That by itself is also upcoming as an issue, especially if you are accepting products which are coming from animal production where you still have agropharmaceuticals being used that are stimulating antimicrobial resistance. So and that is also something that then gets into the, or can get into the digestate. So, and that was then the final slide. I hope I did not go too much over time.
No, it's fine. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for this very comprehensive and elaborative presentation of the report. Now we have time for some questions. I think we have to put on the screen some questions for the audience. We'd like to do that interactively with you and try to see how many of you have specific interest in specific research needs, which are the most important to you. So please look at the list from A to H: agronomic use, mineral extraction, extraction of other compounds, microbial valorisation, economic optimization and social acceptance, trans-sectoral use, environmental impact or other. Please scan the QR code and give your answer. While you're doing that, and this will give us the opportunity to go through the most important, let's say, research need. We will put the results on the screen, and we will have the chance to discuss why is this an important research need, what do you want to ask more professor years, and to elaborate a little bit on these most important research needs. But while you're doing that, and before we put it on the screen, I have a question for Professor Mears. And this is, okay, you presented us a lot of research and innovation needs for the valorization of the biodigestate. What are perhaps regulatory measures, policy measures, that you think there should be there in order to help materialize this research and innovation that is necessary to improve the biodigestate?
Well, it was not proposed by me or by some expert, but I really support it as well. It was a concept of the regulatory sandboxes. But when we are in any type of environmental technology related to everything based on the bio-based economy, trying to implement innovative technologies, there is let's say a conservative restraint because it's not proven at operational relevant level. You have that famous TRL barometer, but in order to do that, you need to be allowed to do that. So apart from subsidizing, which is already in place, either sustainability development in certain sectors, innovation, whether it's local or European, I think also from industrial research as a stimulus, I think there needs to be, under well-defined conditions, under very well-controlled conditions, a way of assessing environmental pressure related, and not only environmental pressure, but also the economic assessment of such a process. So the regulatory sandboxes, I think that's indeed a good pitch that was made by the experts.
I would challenge you a bit more, because here in the Commission we often propose test beds. Mm-hmm. What are the test beds? They're semi-industrial size demonstration units where you can go and you can test your technology. So do you think that something like that would be helpful for improving the valorization of the biodigestate, because it's not only the environmental impact, it's also, as you say, the optimization of the process, the larger the scale, the more technical problems, and so on.
Yeah, well, test bed and regulated sandbox, I think they are intertwined or comparable. For the test beds, well, in other sectors you have delineated industrial sites or pilot installations that, or pilot plants. Also in the heart of Ghent, you have the bio-based plant Europe, pilot plant Europe, where you can, under controlled conditions, look at fermenting reactors and things like that. But for digestate and biogas, well, these technologies are more in rural areas, are also intertwined with agricultural activities. So you need to move away from, or you are moving away by definition, from conventional industrial test beds. So I think in essence it's the same, but in practice it will be a little bit different, that you are more in the open rural context.
This is true in order to test the fertilizers or the other liquid or solid into the ground, but in the recovery, when you recover the nutrients, probably you can do it also in an industrial environment and not in a rural.
For that one category on mineral recovery, I agree. I think indeed for such situations you can easily bring digestate to delineated installation, set up unit process steps, do your extractions, look at the site product production, characterization, measure emissions. Well, there I agree. That's for the category where you have the purely looking at the process itself in the recovery. For other steps, it's a little bit more tricky.
Regarding society, what do you think are the societal concerns regarding the use of this biodigestate, and what measures are necessary to address that?
Well, maybe first answering the second question, then the first. I think what we have been seeing develop in a number of European projects and also regional activities, kind of a living lab platform activity of co-creation for exchange of experiences and expertise. That is something that has been working well. So that's on the how to address. What we see then upstream is that people tend to believe their peers. It's not because scientists in Belgium write a paper or report that someone in Italy will also say, now I have to do it because this gentleman in Brussels is saying that. No, they want to have the first-hand experience, good and bad, from their own peers. So that means that moving up the TRL ladder and demonstration and working at operational relevant levels is something that is needed in order to convince and catalyze that change. And also to identify at the practical level things that can go wrong. Because things that are put in a report are always kind of positive, but it's always when you go to practice that you encounter more problems that also need abatement.
Thank you, but look at the results. Oh, it's amazing. Most of the people here in the audience want economic optimization and social acceptance, following the environmental impact, and then the rest, first the economic use, etc. So, it is true. It came to my mind also, looking at the valorization, whether it makes sense, economic sense, to extract all these nutrients to use elsewhere. And can you elaborate a little bit on this preference and what can be done?
Yes. Well, you are right in the sense that one thing that we need to avoid is a technology push. And that's also why we did include agronomic use of digestate and derivatives of digestate directly, because in the vast majority of Europe, use of digestate is more than having biorefining concepts. We also see that the technology state of art is getting there, but to reinventing business concepts to implement biorefining concepts but also some monetization, like I mentioned before, on carbon credits, for example. So innovative business plans that can improve the business concept so that it's not only about the renewable energy. At the moment, it's getting better on par with natural gas commodity pricing, but still there is a gap, and that gap can be closed by other economic optimizations from the biorefinery. And then the social acceptance, what we covered already a little bit, and the regulatory part, basically setting the framework for adopting technologies which are already advancing is I think it's from this audience at least. I would interpret it as such.
Thank you very much. I think there's a lot more to be said about the socio-economic and environmental impact of the biodigestate. With this, I would like to thank you for the presentation and give the floor to Lauren to continue for the second part.
Second part, because you're scoring one with the social, economic, and framing. That's exactly the second part.
Absolutely. Can you hear me well? Yes, absolutely. Because you flagged economic optimization and social acceptance as the main research need, and it's really interesting because this is also what this new BIP report, which is being prepared, is about. It's about looking at what is being done in practice already today, which can be considered good practices, maybe sometimes even best practices in the sense that nobody is doing it yet, maybe some innovative companies, some best practitioners, some advanced farmers are doing it, but with proven results. So it's important to look at this also for building social acceptance. Probably nutrient recovery and the use of digestate. When it comes to the use of untreated digestate, it's quite well known, but so this is a bit what the report is looking into. So this session, so Gladys will present, and after she has presented the preliminary findings of the report, we will want really also to seek your inputs and invite you, if you're interested, to contribute further. So, Gladys, the floor is yours.
I am part of the drafting team of this report with Laure and also Yvette and Piero. I'm working in Total Energies biogas business unit, so as a biomethane producer in Europe. So, the scope of work of this report, as Laure and Eric already mentioned it, this is a report in the Task Force 2 of the BIP regarding the acceleration of biogas and biomethane development in Europe, and we are more focused on the fertilizer and soil amendment parts of this Task Force 2. The scope of work, so we decided to split this mission into two reports. First one is a waste-based feedstock report, which is coordinated by the FEAD, and the second one, which we are presenting today, is the use and the valorisation of digestate at European level. What we did and what we already have done and what we still want to seek for is to have a practical review of what are the practices in Europe regarding digestate use and valorisation. And our point is to review existing practices and technologies. So technologies that already existed, that is not part of a research or research and development phase. Especially what we just said. So the drafting team, as I said, just to give you a bit of transparency on how the report has been drafted yet and will still be. We are 3 people within the drafting team, Yvette Gerard, Biomethane, and myself, help a lot by Laure, which is working at the TG Grow. And the idea was we had a call of volunteers around the TF2 and the BIP membership. We had informal exchanges, and also we had a first meeting online to present the scope of works of both reports, and then an in-person meeting to confirm and decide ourselves on the scope of work. From there we had a phase of gathering inputs, so a call for inputs to all stakeholders that were interested in giving some information on what they were doing with digestate. And now we had that the state of we have draft of first draft with the inputs we had and received, and now the idea with you today is also to share what were the first results that we had from the analysis of the first inputs we had, and to see if we have missed something or if you have some interesting inputs to give us because we are still in the drafting process. And we hope, and we will publish the report within November of this year. So, preliminary findings. First things, as Eric already had the occasion to mention, biogas and biomethane are also digestible into soil. It's enabled to reduce the GHG emissions, at least in 3 ways. First one is substitution of fossil gas and electricity with the biogas and the biomethane production, but also by substituting fossil fuel fertilization by digestate, which is local and close a loop and don't need also natural gas feedstock for fertilization. And also to reduce the methane emitted by the initial feedstock, like manure being applied directly on fields, or no manure management at all. And also it fosters the European food security and independency, because as I just mentioned, one of the major feedstock for the production of fertilizer that are mineral is natural feedstock of phosphate rocks, which we do not process in Europe. So we are dependent on importation, where the organic fertilization, we do have the organic matter in Europe because we are producing it. So this is all about nutrient recycling and management, but I'm sure you're all convinced here about the importance of that. It is also contributing to soil health conditions and reducing the dependency on the importation of just feedstocks for the production of fertilizers or fertilizer. Then, and it's more or less correspond to what I really mentioned already for the agricultural use or the mineral extraction. So we have 3 levels of uses in Europe. We have raw digestate used as such. So this is a sludge that is directly returned to soil, but it has high transportation costs. And it's also being possible where you don't have any restriction regarding N or P concentration, like vulnerable zones we have in Europe. Then you have a first small post-process, which is the liquid and solid separation. You have a solid phase of digestion, that is more used as a direct substitution to N fertilizers. And you have a solid board that acts more as a soil maintenance, where the P fraction of digestate is concentrated. And then you have further post-processes that we will also see roughly just after. This case, what we see is we have further post-processes done to digestate when you can better valorize economically the nutrients you are extracting. When also you need to transport your digestate because you cannot apply directly it on soil because of N and P concentration, especially in the Netherlands or in Belgium. And this is mostly because of high vulnerable zones to N and P. So for the untreated part of digestate, which for us comprise the raw digestate and also the liquid and solid separation phases, they present higher benefits than initial feedstocks. Meaning, when we digestate agricultural feedstock, mainly manure and slurries, we see within the academic literature and also in real life, because this is what we were seeking for, benefits. The benefits are regarding the fertilizer efficiency, because the N and the P and the K are being mineralized during the AG process, which is not the case when you apply directly manure and livestock slurries. You also have natural or positive impact on soil organic carbon and microbiology. I will not go further, and also you have the ERIC reports to go with this parts further. And it reduces pathogens because of pasteurization of some feedstock and also the retention time within the AG processor. It presents risk for sure, but the idea of this report was also to have a summarize the best practices we had feedbacks from. Good practices we had are the ammonia and the methane emission during storage and spreading. How do we limit them? We also have how do we limit nitrates leaching, and also how to limit ceramic contaminants. So you have further a lot of practices that have been noticed and that are going to be part of the report regarding the pH, the acidity of digestate that can be lower. Also applying digestate when the temperature and the weather conditions are the most favorable to make the time retention within the AG processor longer, etc., etc. And because the unsweating digestate can be spread into the region of Europe, we need processes to transform digestate into something else, into more concentrated or biofertilized products. The contribution we had, they are more focused on nitrates, scrubbing processes, also composting or plasma treatment technologies. These are all technologies that are more or less at commercial stage. And we had the opportunity to review concrete and existing business cases, what was the main point of this report. However, we still see barriers that must be further acknowledged to enable the market and the technology to further develop. Into bio-based organic and organo-mineral fertilizer, how do we go further from the digestate treatment to post-process so we can have bio-based and organo-mineral fertilizer being pushed on the markets in Europe? Because they still present benefits for soil condition and fertilization, can have business cases for sure, because this is the aim of this report. And now the main objective is to how can we face market barriers to further develop those products and those markets in Europe. Still, it remains some gaps in our reports, and this today is an occasion to fulfill them. So, we mostly had a contribution based on agri feedstocks, so it would be great if you have something to share with us regarding non-agri feedstocks. Also, we lack on data on the economic model. If you have any experience in the project, that could be interesting for us, and also where we can have more data on this economic model for on-food and post-processed digestates. Local practices and on-country barriers. So, what can you share with us? What do you think is interesting for us to have in this report to show what are the barriers that still remaining in Europe? As I was saying, the idea is not to give to the European Commission how they should modify the regulation, but still we can discuss the barriers that we see. And also, good practices. We love good practices, so if you have any idea of other good practices, please share with us. I think it's time for discussion. we're good with the timing, I think.
Yes, I think we're good, and maybe before moving, so first there might be a few questions from the audience. Do you have some questions for clarification, or some points where you would like to know more about the content of the report? Yes, Lucy.
So Lucy Sever from the European Biogas Association. I was wondering if you managed, both for the agronomic practices and the business model or case studies, to try to adapt them to the local context or general climate conditions, all this. Do you have examples of different countries, or how did you manage this? Because it's quite difficult.
Exactly. This is a very interesting point, and also something we should highlight in the report. We have several business cases from different countries, but still, I think some countries are always missing, like Poland or, I don't know, maybe Portugal. We have always blind spots. So if you have any inputs from those countries, please make your contribution. It will be highly loved by us. But yeah, it's sure that we need to highlight this. Like, this is an Italian business case, this is a French one, this is a Dutch one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Maybe one remark from my side on this is that there are some, maybe, so I think you were referring, saying that good practices linked to the management of digestate. So there are some probably that are valid a bit everywhere, and some that would differ depending on the local context. But for example, if you need to draw a fertilizer plan, it will be in a very different context depending on where you are, but drawing one is in any case a good idea. Maybe that also depends also the level you are looking at. But indeed, if you are...
Yeah, we could make a difference between practices we could have everywhere and practices that are depending on soil conditions or weather, and define also the different factors.
For example, covering the digestate where you store it maybe does not really depend that much on your local condition.
Yeah.
Yes, Eric?
Maybe adding to the question, what would you, I mean, you mentioned several countries which are missing, but we have a lot of projects which also have Polish and also Portuguese and so on partners, so that I think we have projects we could get information. Are you looking for testimonial evidence or business plan, economic evidence? Because I think for Belgium we also, the association provided a testimonial case for a business, for a biogas plan. But is it specifically business plans that you would like, or testimonials from different countries? It is business plan. No, not business plan.
No, I think business plans, but both were okay. Like, both are interesting, but this was more on business plans, the reports from the very basic, right?
Yeah, maybe for this audience that could be, because yes, I think the exploration of the economic model is still something to be improved.
Yeah, then I'm looking at Roman because in the systemic project, business plans were made. You already have them. Okay, you have them. Okay. Because there we did it for 5 France, Italy, Germany, and so on. And then you have a full economic data.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, the concerned guy. In coming back to these business plans that we analyzed in Systemic, there was an interesting aspect that the best business cases that we analyzed had always some deficiencies One was, for example, Agronomic in Italy, where they collect the sludge from all over Italy, which is probably not the best solution if I take the sludge from Roma to Milano as an example. And the other one was the German case where they use their own cropland to produce crops, to digest them. So it's a land use issue that is involved in that. However, we know that we don't like this and we don't like that as a society. We don't like the long transport distances and we don't like the use of crop land for digestate or for biogas production. On the other hand, I believe we must revisit all this because we are producing, for example, pig meat for China, and we use land maybe in Europe, but partly in Brazil for producing the feed for that. So I think this holistic aspect must be revisited in terms of can we allow ourselves, because I'm returning to the business case. We had perfect, nice business cases, and the German plant, for example, fulfilled the function of providing on-demand electricity or biomethane, or they could also store it. So depending on balancing the volatile energy supply of renewable energy facilities. But the deficit was that he used his own cropland for producing the biogas resources. But on the other hand, he used only his own fertilizer for fertilizer, so he didn't buy any chemical fertilizer for it. So the only deficit was land use. It was not any chemical imports in this land. So I think all this must be taken into consideration if we deal with business cases, and we must really look at the whole agricultural system in and outside Europe, what we are doing, and if we have better solutions to get, always talking about the 35 billion cubic meter of biomethane. So if we want to achieve this, maybe we must question some of our guidelines that we have.
Definitely. I don't know if you want to say, well, it's true. I think that the report, as you suggest, it's about economic models that are established, that are already working, but of course it's super important to be transparent about their local context. Or when they are indeed too dependent on the local context, not to include them in the report. Because what you want usually at a European level, when you work with good practices in reports, and Maria knows that very well too, you look for things that are replicable, maybe not copy-pastable, but that have where you have a certain potential for scaling up or for replicating in other regions, in other contexts. So I think this is what we are looking for. Business plans, of course, it sounds a bit like you're a startup and you're doing your business plan, which can be quite interesting as well. I have it in the context of another project because you see immediately where are the pain points, right? What are the difficulties for investors? So that can also be rich in terms of lessons learned about the business case for a certain technology, but that's a bit maybe of a different approach, right? But well, I guess where we are, we're happy to, we take all the evidence. Correct?
Correct. We take everything.
and then there will be another, I think, yes, we're calling for inputs, but also people that want to join the group. The idea is also to review the report, and so which can sometimes be easier for some people rather than, ex nihilo, sending my input. Sometimes I'm more comfortable with reviewing the report, giving my comments, which can be at an early stage if I am very involved, or at a quite late stage if I am just marginally involved. I think we're fine also with all types.
Yeah, all types are welcome. You can You can just join the event here when you will be very happy.
So, are there any other questions for clarification? Maria?
I was wondering whether you are going to analyze the market barriers.
Yes.
And a question that pops up to my mind is how comparable is a biodigestate as fertilizer with a chemical fertilizer in terms of price, in terms of quality, means what is the yield per hectare? How can you convince a farmer to change? Perhaps
I think you should join the group.
perhaps starting from that, you could see whether you can build a business case.
Voilà.
Yeah, exactly. I think the main difficulty is that digestate as such raw or just liquid solid separation. It cannot be used directly as the manner of fertilizer is being used because you cannot store it the same way, you cannot use it the same way. It's not a urea product, the DAP is not a product you can buy on the market. And this is the main issue. So either we find a way to value that a bit of in the low-tech way directly on land, or we have to post-process them to become bio-based fertilizers that are more close, I think, to what the farmers are used to use. To say. And this really depends on local demand, local markets, and I think personally the low-tech version should always be preferred if it's possible to have. But this is my personal view on the fact, and this is not what we also have other views in the report that will be defended.
I wonder, can they survive without EU support and subsidies?
No, I don't think so. Not at the early stage. Because it's really, we do it a business case where I work into that. You cannot sell the digestate with the commodity price for MP or K. No one will buy it because it's not the same. Sometimes you manage, but
Yes, and if I'm not mistaken, also clearly in the report, there is a chapter on the market barriers for the bio-based fertilizing products that are made from digestate, and you were considering, but it's not yet done, a fifth chapter that could be on the regulatory barriers. Correct?
exactly, and also maybe a part of the support that could be there to have it. Like blending obligation for organic fertilizations or organic origin for fertilizers.
Shall we maybe move to the next slide? I've seen a hand raised, but yes. We've prepared a little survey, so either you can scan the QR code, or if you go with your smartphone at slido.com via your internet browser, then you type EU BIP as a hashtag. So if you're too far, you don't scan the QR code, you can still do at slido.com on your mobile phone and with the hashtag EUBIP. And there are two very deeply thought questions for you.
We can have one last question from the audience.
No, it wasn't a question, it was an answer to Maria. The point was when we analyzed the business plan, when we had people that had 1,500 and 3,000 hectare owned land. And he used this fertilizer on his own land, or they used the fertilizers on their own land. And of course, the calculated value was the saving of the mineral fertilizer that they did not at all use. So your answer, it could replace 100% yes, with the same yield. But as soon as the same company or person wants to sell the digestate fertilizer to a third party, the third party would not pay him the value, it's exactly what you say, but much lower. So they would say, okay, this is waste, go away with it, or I take it if you give it to me for free. So this is exactly, so it's a cultural barrier that is involved here, that the neighbors would not pay the value, the fair value, let's say, and fair value could be also a 20% discount on the mineral fertilizer price, but they don't want the 20%, they want the 90% discount.
There are multiple prices to enter the market, of course, when someone is there established, it is very difficult to hit the prices that are established there. And then you have to take various tweaks offer in order to be not. The question is if the quality is the same. I think a product is a value, and this value will be recognized. Of course, it needs some regulatory support.
I think that's exactly what you're saying. It's really, I think what we're seeing, clearly, but correct me if I'm wrong, is that you have really two situations. Either you are with your untreated digestate, where they have very little value, so you better use them locally, you don't have a market, that's what you're saying. Or you are with processed digestates into fertilizing products, and usually they are quite good, but they are a bit more expensive than the competing alternative. No? Is it not a bit what, or they manage to find their way on certified organic?
I think it really depends on the country. In Europe, we sell places where raw digestives are just liquid solid. They can be valorized. Like in France, we managed to valorize it a bit higher as just normal digestate. When we improve quality, we have quality schemes. We can be recognized as biological for biological farming. So there is schemes where we can valorize raw digestate. And also, I think that it must be said here that the quality of digestate, when controlled and measured in where you have a quality process, they are of very high quality. Also, not only regarding the fertilizing qualities, but also for the soil health. So it's also depending on what do you assess for the price. Do you only take the fertilizing materials, or also do you take the soil pollution materials?
You should take both.
Yeah, I think take both. Where digestate, even as growth of better quality than just mineral. But correct me if someone is not agree.
Okay, so while you're reflecting whether you want to intervene, maybe we can, I saw already 20 people reply, so maybe we could now Margarita, if you want to, yes. So, question number one was, is this consistent with what you know? Okay, so I will just read what people have said, because if you're at the back, or you want to come closer, or I better read. So, are these findings consistent with what you know? Especially, so I guess yes, especially the willingness of farmers to use the digestate or the bio-based fertilizers. Market acceptance coming up every time. There, however, it doesn't consider the digestate streams that come from wastewater treatment plants. Indeed, and that's what you mentioned, Claire-Lise. We are quite good, I think, on agri-based feedstocks, but non-agri-based feedstocks, a big municipal organic waste, but in particular sewage sludge, is of course very challenging, and you have fewer evidence on the return to soil, because also we have many more contaminants, as you all know, right? So we are a bit struggling on that part. So, yeah. Then, yes, do you manage, Margarita, maybe to scroll down a bit? Not go back with the arrow, but scroll down. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Yes, yeah. Partially. Who said partially? And would want to chip in? Well, if you say partially, you're welcome to explain, but maybe you don't dare. Okay, then there will be at the end of the slide, there will be Claire-Lise's email, as well as mine, so that she's not solely floating. Voilà. So, especially the people who replied, partially, more or less. Some findings are consistent, but not all, to a certain extent. I would like to read more to understand the details. I would like to see concrete results. Okay, I have remarks. So you're too shy now to raise your hand, but you're really welcome to contact us. Okay, is to share. Just share in an email your thoughts, and then we'll see also how to deal with it.
Exactly. this is also the idea of this presentation, so please write this.
And if I remember well clearly, you were especially interested in feedback from people around the concrete barriers.
Of course, if you have any experiences, projects, or things you observe where you have concrete barriers regarding farmers' acceptability or people acceptability, regulation barriers, administrative barriers and burdens you would like to talk about, market barriers, anything, just again write us an email and we'll be more than happy to discuss this.
And if I'm not mistaken, when people contribute, then they have a chance to view the draft report before publication as well, so that they can comment potentially. Not if you send one line.
Yeah, please.
Margareta, maybe we can, because, yes. Okay, what should we ever consider? Do you want to read the candidates?
Sure. So, economic and social and legal framework, this is the idea of the report. So, if you, again, have any other suggestions and data, please provide us. Maybe expand to your below line. The idea was not to do it, so I should do once.
No, because otherwise we steal everything from the people.
It's not stealing, it's borrowing.
Okay. Involving different stakeholders in order to obtain a relevant and reliable business cases. Sure, we are very keen to have broader perspective. So again, if you have any idea or contact to give to us, please, we are very happy with it. Digestate spreading system this is part of the best practices we didn't develop, but they will definitely be part of the report. Insert the terror technology,
All be online.
They are all be online, so I don't know if it's very interesting to have them. Market perspective, of course, we see that there is a lot on data on that, so we will try to do this. Compost digestate. Of course, this is an option of post-processing, so this will be part of the report. A chapter on regulatory barriers, exactly as Laura mentioned it, we will. And also, I take the point to really highlight the support mechanism or incentives that could be in. Robust business case, yes, for different contexts, all right. Policies, agronomic testing, okay. We will see if we can manage to have this. The report we have agronomic testing and policies reports. Environmental impact of producing biomethane. There are projects as a firm play that they are working on the SCA on digestate, so we could also contact them to have data on that, user and other market actor perspectives. Alright, if you have any data, please provide. Again, taking into account the general public and the institutions by working as a bridge. I think this is more or less the facts.
Indeed, I think we are now very close to conclusion. What do you think? My feeling based on what you said is that we already covered a good part of it, which is the part related to farming practices and post-processing technologies, where maybe, and market barriers to a certain extent, but maybe where we would have done in particular your input is on the barriers, market and regulatory, and on the user perspective.
Yes, this is true. The user perspective might be like we didn't add any menu.
No.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
here you have the emails, as we said before. We added because no, that's something we should tell. For a one-shot discussion, okay? Just for a specific point, you drop us an email, that's enough. But it's true that if you want to contribute a bit more, and for example, be consulted at an early stage on the reports, it is cleaner, let's say, it's better, if you join the BIP, which I think Razia is here. It's no big deal at all. If there is no fee to be paid, it's just a form to be filled. And if you have any questions, Grazia is your woman. But I think for a bit more involvement, it is better. Do you have anything? Have you forgotten anything?
I don't think so. Thanks for the audience who have come and also